There is no one in the world who has accomplished more in so many different fields than our special guest today. But whatever you call him, don't call him self-made, because along his incredible journey, there have been people who have been always willing to reach out and help him make the next step. And now, in what may be the most storied phase of his illustrious career, he's now doing the same for all of us. He is 100% focused on giving back and making an impact, whether it's through the USC Schwarzenegger Institute, which he helped found in 2012 to advance solutions that transcended partisanship and political gridlock. Thank you, USC Schwarzenegger Institute and Conyers, for making this event possible. Whether it's through his recent book, Be Useful, his online fitness guidance through Pump Club, his after-school program, After School All-Stars, or his leadership on global sustainability. He is, among many other things, an incredibly proud father, including of 2 USC alums, one of whom, Patrick, we've been seeing a lot of, and I mean a lot of, recently. He also has 2 nieces in the audience, and we could not be happier and more pleased to have former Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger here with us today. Please welcome him.
Thank you. Well, first of all, let me just say thank you for the wonderful introduction. And I know that you are a very smart person, very academic, and you're a great leader, extraordinary human being, but they did not know that you had such a great sense of humor. So congratulations to all of those things. And it is wonderful to be here and to have a packed room here today of students and friends. It is really wonderful. And I'm looking forward to having this discussion with you. It's absolutely right. He called me one day, actually FaceTimed me. That's the only way you get in touch with me, because I don't have an iPhone. I only have an iPad. And so that he FaceTimed me and he said, how about doing this event and celebrating, this Democracy Day on September 15th. And I said, I'm in. Let's meet and let's talk about it. And here we are today. Yeah. So thank you.
Governor Schwarzenegger, I wanted to begin on a very serious and somber note. Last week, as everyone in this room knows, the country witnessed the most horrific murder of Charlie Kirk on a university campus in Utah. It was a highly disturbing event, and I know that it's shaken a lot of members of our community. And I wanted to ask you, what were your reactions to this event, and what can you say to help our community process what this event means for something that we all care so much about, which is even when we disagree with someone vehemently over politics, it should never, ever descend into violence of any kind.
Well, I was very, very upset that someone's life was taken because they have a different opinion. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I mean, this was a great communicator, a great advocate for the right, for Republican causes. And he had such a great way of communicating with the students that agreed or disagreed with him. And I just thought, it's a human being. A human life is gone. And he was a great father, a great husband. And I was thinking about his children. They will only be reading about him now. instead of him reading to them bedtime stories. I mean, it's just unbelievable of what is going on. So I was shocked when I saw this, as we all were. And I think that since then there are endless amount of debates about how do we stop this. But we have to acknowledge that the cause of all of this is the social media companies that are dividing us, the mainstream media companies that are dividing us, the political parties, the Democrats that are dividing us, the Republicans that are dividing us. So we're getting hit from so many different angles. And we have to be very careful that we don't get any closer to that cliff. Because when you fall down that cliff, down there is no democracy. So we have to be very, very careful. And I think it is very important that we turn this around. And that we show people power. Because the people can turn this around. The people have the ultimate power. That people always say, well, what can I do? I'm just an individual. But each and every one of you in here can make a difference. You can show leadership. This is about leadership. This is a time to show leadership, where USC students from the Democratic Club to the Republican Club can get together. Imagine that you get together and you start having communications together and solving problems together. You will have the media turn out in no time and cover that story. And you will be an example for the rest of the nation and for all universities, how you get together, how you not see the other side as the enemy, or to fight fire with fire, like they're saying today, or to declare war on each other, as they're saying today. You can show leadership and you can get together and be this example. Because remember, the people power is the ultimate power. That's what democracy is all about. This is what democracy is all about. If you analyze the word democrat, I mean the Latin, demo, people, crat, power. That's what it is. People power. Not politician power. It's people power. So use that power and start getting together and show to the country and to the world that we can do it. Let's just do it, okay?
Charlie Kirk actually came to USC last year. I don't know if you know that, Governor, and he set up right in front of my office, right in front of Tommy Trojan. And what I remember so clearly is people would go up to the microphone. Some of them would agree with him. Some people would disagree with him. There were some expletives that were dropped, but there were so many students who wanted to hear the conversation, wanted to engage with his point of view. And I have to say, I think the event was a tremendous success because agree or disagree with what he had to say, it got everyone thinking more about what they believed.
You're absolutely correct, because I remember a lot of students that came to me afterwards, Democrats and Republicans, and said that they really enjoyed the event.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was a fantastic communicator. No two ways about that.
I want to back up many years and ask you a question, and then we'll get back to some of these issues that we've been discussing. You grew up in post-war Austria, and I know that you've said one of your earliest visions and ambitions was to come to the United States of America. And I wanted to ask you, where do you think that desire, that vision came from? And then, once you got to America, and I know you started off in Florida and then made your way to California, in what ways did it meet your expectations? And in what ways did it not meet your expectations after you actually came?
Well, first of all, it didn't have much to do in a way with democracy. Because when I was a kid, I saw black and white videos that they showed in school. And there was one video of America. And I saw this unbelievable high-rises, Empire State Building, the Golden Gate Bridge. I saw the 6-lane highways and freeways. I saw the huge cars with the big fins sticking out. I saw Hollywood, Muscle Beach. I mean, I saw all of this and I said to myself, what am I doing here in Austria? I should be over there. I want to be part of this. And so my desire was to come to America. And I had to kind of figure out how. And that's why I was more inclined towards the bodybuilding sport, because it felt like that was an American sport. And if I win the world championships, I will be invited over to America. And to come to America and then stay here. And that's exactly what happened. And I think that the first time at that age when I heard about democracy was really when I was competing in the bodybuilding world championship in East Berlin in 1966. And one of the weightlifters came up to me and said, what is it like over there? And I said, what do you mean, what is it like over there? And he said, well, I mean, you guys are free. You have democracy. We have the dictatorship here. Communism. And I said, well, I say, I don't even know how to compare the two. I said, because I've never really been over here on the east side. This is the first time I just arrived here to compete in this competition. And but then when I left the competition, it was over, and the next day I went back to West Berlin, to the west side, and a friend of mine where I stayed took me then to the Axel Springer building. That was right there where the wall was. And we looked over to the other side, to East Berlin, and it was all gray and decrepit kind of buildings, old buildings, partially fallen apart, not kept up. The streets were kind of weird. There was no lights at night, nothing like that. And then I looked over to this side where I was, and I said to myself, oh my God, there's all these modern buildings, and it's a beautiful place. And everyone was happy. So this is when I realized for the first time what he was talking about. You know, dictatorship, communism versus democracy. And I realized, oh, there's something there that we should be really thankful for. And I tell you, it made me, as I went on in time, it made me very proud actually of Austria. Because, I mean, that was part of the German regime. And the dictatorship, the evil dictatorship. And then after the war, they realized that this was wrong. And they formed a democracy. And now this democracy is working like a jewel. It's fantastic. Austria has become really a great, great country because of that. And of course, America has always been a great example of that. And, you know, this democracy here has been, you know, around ever since its existence. And it has had, of course, its ups and downs when you look at the history of America. But I think the important thing is that we all recognize that this democracy is not a spectator sport. Democracy is not a spectator sport. We got to participate. We got to participate. That is the important thing there. And everyone has the power to participate. I mean, there's so many people that say, well, what can I do? I mean, just ask yourself, do you vote every time? That's participating in democracy. I mean, if you think about students, if you look at the statistics, 1/4 of the students vote and 3/4 of the students don't. So that doesn't mean that you're participating in democracy and that you're fighting for democracy. Or if you go around to people, not just students, but around to people and say, hey, do you know who your representative is in Sacramento? Who is your assembly person? Who is your senator? Or who is representing you in Washington? Most people don't even know. Then if you go even further and you say, have you ever communicated with them? Have you written to them? Have you phoned them? Have you FaceTimed them? Have you gone to the office? Majority of people say no. So, but that's how we participate in democracy. And that's how we strengthen democracy.
You mentioned bodybuilding as the vehicle you took in some ways to achieve your dream of making it to America. And when someone who doesn't know you that well looks at your journey from bodybuilding, being the greatest bodybuilder for years in the world, and then conquering Hollywood and becoming the most important and most coveted actor in Hollywood, and then taking that to politics, it looks like, boy, whatever this guy touches, whatever he does, he's just an immediate success. The guy has the Midas touch. Now, I think the story is actually a lot more complicated, right? Where, just like other people, you've experienced a lot of failure and setback, and still you've gotten back on your feet and kept going. Can you share with the students some of the failures and setbacks you've experienced, and what was it that made you get back up and keep moving forward?
Well, I think the most important thing is that we have a vision. You have to have a very clear vision of where you want to go. And then everything becomes a little easier because you know why. So when I went to the gym, I remember that the majority of guys always said, oh, I have to do another 500 sit-ups. All right, let's get going. 500 sit-ups. I never had that attitude. And the reason is because I, in my vision, was Mr. Universe. I saw myself very clearly on that Mr. Universe stage, with the trophy in the hand and making the flex of the bicep. And I said to myself that every rep that I do, the 500 sit-ups or another 500 squats, takes me one step closer to making that vision a reality. So I couldn't wait. I was excited for every rep, because every rep, one step closer, one step closer, one step closer to that goal, to becoming the world's greatest bodybuilder. So I was looking forward to it, and I had fun. And so when the press a lot of times came into the gym and covered bodybuilding, they always said, we only found one guy that was always smiling. And it was Arnold. Arnold was always smiling. And the reason was because of that. So it didn't matter if I failed on a 500-pound squat. It didn't matter if I failed on a 500-pound deadlift or on a 700-pound, bench press or whatever. It made no difference, because this was all to get to this end goal. And when it comes to failures, I always felt like that as long as you get up, you're not a failure. You can fail, because if you decide that your best lift is 200 pounds in a squat, But you say, I'm going to try now 250. Well, that means that you want to go and see how far you can go. But you may fail, but it doesn't mean you're a failure. It meant that you had courage. So I don't see it as failure. This is why it is important that we go all out, no matter what we do, until you fail. Because remember, the brain and the mind is like the muscle. And the muscle can only grow if you go towards failure. I can do 8 reps in the curl, and the 8th rep goes like this. Then the 9th one goes like, and then I do the 10th like that. And then, which they call the forced reps. Then I do the 11th like that. And then the 12th rep, I scream loud. Pain. But what happened to the last 4 reps? The first 8 reps didn't make my bicep grow, but the last 4 reps made my bicep grow. So only through discomfort, ultimate discomfort, and pain, you can go and grow. The same is with the mind. The more you fail and the more obstacles you overcome and the more discomfort you overcome, the tougher you will get and the more you can accomplish. So those that are seeking for comfort and for the easy route will always stay weak. Remember that. The only way you will get strong and successful is if you accept pain, discomfort. Sometimes you will cry. I remember there were nights when I came to America, the first Mr. Universe contest in America, I lost. I came second. It was painful. I was in a strange country, couldn't speak the language, and I lost. I cried all night. But the next morning I woke up. This was before Terminator, and I said, I'm back. I'm back. I said, now we're going to map out a program, and I'm going to win that competition. And a year later, I won that competition, and then another federation's Mr. Universe. The year later, I won Mr. World and Mr. Olympia and everything. I won everything after that. So you have to go through those moments. That's the important thing. So never, ever be afraid of failure. There's so many people out there that are afraid of failure, afraid of the unknown. Don't be afraid. Welcome it and go after it.
One of the visions that you ultimately developed, I think, surprised a lot of people. And that vision was to go into political life, which you did after becoming a giant movie star and of course, all of the bodybuilding achievements that you reached. I want to ask you a question going back to some comments you made earlier. You certainly learned a lot when you were in Sacramento, a lot about policy, a lot about politics, a lot about gridlock and partisanship and polarization. Nowadays, people talk a lot about what is wrong with our democracy and what's the reason it seems to be not functioning the way it's supposed to. Is it social media, which you mentioned? Is it partisanship? Is it economic inequality? Do you have any thoughts you can share as to what you think the greatest threat to democracy is today in the United States and in the world?
Well, let me first of all back up a little bit, because I think that you said, you got into the public arena and the governorship. The reason why I got into that, this was not my dream when I was 20 years old or 15 years old or 25 years old. I wanted to be the most muscular man in the world, break all the records, get into movies and be another Clint Eastwood, or Reg Park, who was playing Hercules on a big screen, and make millions of dollars. It's that simple. I said, for that I have to come to America. So I did. And I accomplished all of those things. But along the way, I was asked, because I was a bodybuilding champion, if I could train Special Olympians. I had no idea how to train Special Olympians, but I said right away, yes. It was in Wisconsin, a university in Wisconsin. And I said, yes. I flew up there, and I spent 3 days up there, and I, for the first time, trained Special Olympians. These were kids this university did research on Special Olympics, and they were fascinated with this. And so there was a bench there was a barbell. I stripped the barbell down to just an empty bar, and I had the kids, there was 10 kids. I had them lie on the bench. I put the bar above them, and they did the reps. And then after the fourth kid, came the fifth kid. I put the bar on top of it. He started screaming, freaking out. He thought he's going to get crushed. And I took the bar off, and they all laughed at him, and they said, no, we don't laugh here. I said, we support each other. I said, just stay over here. I said, can you be my assistant coach? And he said, yes. I said, okay, next one did the bench press, the next one. And then we put on plates. And then we went through a whole round like this with plates on it. It was like 30 or 40 pounds on the bar. And then eventually I said, do you want to try it again with the empty bar? And he said, yes. And he laid down, and they put the bar on top of him, and he did one rep. And I said, wow, this is fantastic. And they all were applauding. I said, wait a minute. I said, you have so much power. I said, you just threw this weight up there. I said, do you mind if I put on 10-pound plates? No. I put on 10-pound plates. I said, give me a few reps. Boom, 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 like nothing, 5 reps. And then I said, do you mind if I put on 10 more pound plates on, 10-pound plates on? He says, no. So he did another 5 reps. So we took the weights off him, and I said, we were all cheering and just, congratulating him and all this. And from that point on, that kid got the confidence. Something that freaked him out with an empty bar, all of a sudden he was having on each side 2 10-pound plates. So it was over 50 pounds the weight. And so it was fantastic to see that. And I tell you that this whole day was like that. And I went home and I called my secretary, and she said, you sound so happy. I've never heard you like this before, Arnold. What is going on here? I mean, you didn't make any money. I said, no, I didn't. She says, this was not a big career move today. I said, no, it wasn't. She says, but you're so happy. I say, I think I'm happy because I was able to help people without ever thinking about myself. And I got kind of sucked into this, helping Special Olympians. I became then eventually the national coach for the Special Olympics, created powerlifting for the Special Olympics, and then became the international coach for Special Olympics. And the next thing I know is, and it happened also to be that my mother-in-law, Eunice Kennedy Shriver, started Special Olympics. So she was very happy with me because I was so involved with Special Olympics, you can imagine. But she helped me build this powerlifting and all this. And eventually, we were traveling around the world promoting Special Olympics, meeting with the president of China, meeting with the president of South Africa, meeting with presidents and prime ministers and chancellors, promoting Special Olympics. And so I felt so good that I was able to reach out and to give something back to my community and my country. That the next thing when President Bush, the first, in 1988 became president, in 1990 he appointed me to be the chairman of the President's Council on Physical Fitness and Sports, And I traveled through all 50 states promoting health and fitness amongst the kids in the public schools. And I was so excited that I had this impact and I was able to give something back. And that's when I detected that kids need after-school programs, and I started the after-school programs. More than 30 years ago, we started the after-school programs. And they're now bigger than ever. We have raised since then $1.5 billion for after-school programs. And I'm traveling around the country to promote after-school programs. So all of this stuff, the reason I'm telling you this is because it was an addiction. Giving back to your community and serving the people is addictive. It feels so good, unlike anything else. And so when we had problems in California, and all of a sudden there was a recall election, my addiction took this a step further. And I said to myself, well, I'm having such a great time giving back to the people. I have more fun playing chess with an after-school kid or training with a Special Olympian than I have going down another red carpet for a movie premiere. So I said to myself, I have to go and just turn my back on Hollywood for maybe a little bit a time and go and jump into this race. And I ran for governor. And 2 months later, I was governor. So this is why, I wanted to just tell you how I got into this. Because there was chaos in California. They couldn't find their way out of a paper bag, the politicians here. So they were looking for an outsider. And so I was able to communicate what I would do as governor, and the people voted for me. So it was people power. Even though the politicians, the Republicans were against me because I was not to the right enough. They said to me that you're not our kind of a guy. John McClintock was our guy. And the left said, oh, he's way too conservative, so they said, well, no, he's not with us. So everyone, the businesses attacked me. The Republican Party attacked me. The Democrats attacked me. The unions attacked me. Everyone attacked me. But with all of those attacks, the people could figure it out. That schnitzel, meaning me, is not in anyone's pocket. They figured out that I'm not a party servant, that I am a people servant, a public servant, that I want to serve the people, not my party. I don't want to serve the oil companies. I don't want to serve the crazy lefts, the crazy rights. Nobody. I want to serve the people. And so that leads us into this next question about democracy, because I could see when I was sitting there as governor how we couldn't get things done because the way the districts were drawn. The districts were drawn where the Democrats and the Republicans get together, and the Democrats say, let's carve out the district here. We put all the Democrats here, and the Republicans say, well, we draw it over here, the lines, so we have all the Republicans. So what happens then is, the only way you can take out the Democrat out of the Democratic district is by being more to the left. And the only way someone can take out a Republican in the Republican district is to be more to the right. So they were going further and further to the left and to the right, and what that means is the distance between the left and the right was so far that they couldn't come together and negotiate and compromise. It was like a rubber band popped. They couldn't do it. So I realized that what the problem was the way the district lines were drawn. So of course I knew nothing about this, to be very honest with you. I was very naive, because you go in there to be governor, you can't know about everything. So I hired and brought around some experts. And they started drawing maps for me and showing to me how you can fix the system and how the politicians fix continuously the system. So I said, well, wouldn't it make sense to have a totally independent commission? They said, yeah, this is the only way to do it. But that was very tough to change. So I put it on a ballot, and we lost. Because the Democrats and the Republicans were fighting it. Imagine, both of the parties said, we don't want to have an independent redistricting commission. We, the politicians, want to draw the district lines. And I said to myself, I know all of you are familiar with the Constitution. How does the Constitution start? We the people. That's right. It starts we the people, not we the politicians. Right? And so I said to myself, they don't want to give this right to the people. They want to hold on to this power. So this is when I realized our democracy is in danger when we let them continue this way. The sad story was that there was gerrymandering like that for the last 200 years. But you see, my mind is kind of wired weird. Because whenever it looks kind of like it's impossible, history has shown us it's impossible, no one has ever done it, that's when I wake up. I say, well, if no one has done it, like in bodybuilding, right? No Austrian has ever won Mr. Universe. So of course I had to do it, to show to them, yeah, an Austrian can do it, and we can take the trophy away from the Americans, and from the British, and from the French. They always won the Mr. Universe titles. So when they say that no German could ever, with an accent like that, be a leading man in movies, then I said, well, then it's time for me to be the first one. Right? And the same is also with the redistricting. I said to myself, okay, if it's never been done, I think that we can do it. And then we lost and we lost and we lost. But eventually, the people voted yes. And we had, all of a sudden, an independent commission to draw the district lines. So we were true leaders in California. And we had then the commissioners and us, we were traveling all over the United States to spread the good word, because California is always a leader, spread the good word that here's another way of going. And literally more than 30% of the districts in America started having independent commissions. So great work was done at that point, and I was very happy with the great work that this independent commission did. And it just shows to you the approval rating of the legislators was like 20% before the independent commission drew the district lines, and then after that it went up to 48%. Because the Democrats and the Republicans had to get together and had to compromise. So the Democrats became more like Republicans, and the Republicans became more like Democrats. So they met in the middle. And remember, this is the important thing. It's like President Eisenhower said, that politics is like the road. The left and the right is the gutter. And the center is drivable. You see what I'm saying? So that's where the action is in the center, the left and the right. And of course, it was not easy. Because imagine now you're there as governor for the first time. I think the only other governor that was really open-minded like that was Hiram Johnson. He became governor in 1911. And he's the one responsible that we have the initiative process in California in the first place. He was responsible for, the recall election. All of those kind of things, direct democracy, Hiram Johnson was responsible for. And so I was sitting there, and I said, I'm going to have on my team some Democrats. I don't want to have just Republicans in here. I knew what the Republicans were thinking. I was a Republican. So I said, let's have some Democrats. The Republican Party asked immediately for a meeting at the hotel across the street from the Capitol. We want to have a meeting. I say, okay, very happy to meet with you. Hopefully you have some good ideas that we can use. So we met the next day, and they sat down with me and they said, how could you have Democrats in your administration? I said, because I believe that if you take half of the talent out, then you only have half of the brain power. I say, I don't believe that if you have a Republican administration, that you should only have Republican brains. I say, because the Democrats have just as good a brains, but they see it just from a different lens. I say, but I want to hear that. I want to hear their arguments. So that's why I want to have Democrats in my administration. Yeah, but your chief of staff, she's a Democrat. I said, so? Well, you have to get rid of her. I said, as far as I know, is that the governor decides who is chief of staff. It's not the party. Are you guys crazy? Yeah, but she is gay. She is gay. I said, what's the problem there? Then he looked at me, you cannot have a gay chief of staff. I said, get the F out of here. And I threw them out. Meeting was over. I mean, it was absolutely outrageous. So anyway, so just to show where I come from and what you have to do and how you have to fight for democracy and for everyone having their voice. Because, I mean, there's some crazies out there. It's that simple. And this is what I think it leads to what is going on today. Because today, they want to dismantle this independent commission. They want to get rid of it under the auspices, we have to fight Trump. Doesn't make any sense to me that because we have to fight Trump to become Trump. I mean, two bad behaviors don't make a right behavior. Two wrongs don't make a right. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. To go back with our principles and the map that they've drawn, that they're going to put in front of the public, was drawn again by the politicians. Drawn by the politicians. Now, we happen to have today a few of our independent commissioners from our independent commission here. Would you please stand up? Please give them a big hand. These were the people that were drawing the maps up until now. Stay standing, please, just for 1 second. Did any of you get asked to help with drawing the maps that they're going to present to the people in November? So it was all the politicians that drew it. Okay, here you are. Okay, so just so you know, it was the politicians not letting the independent commission do their work. It was the politicians that drew the maps, and there was no one from the public at all participating in this process. So this is important for you to know. So they are trying to fight for democracy by getting rid of the democratic principles of California. That started way back with Hiram Johnson. So it is insane to let that happen. This is why it is important for you to vote no on Proposition 50. And I hate to get political here, but this is not political. This is more about democracy, because we are celebrating democracy. The UN in 2007 said, let us make a democracy day worldwide to celebrate democracy, to celebrate open governments and transparency and human rights. But there was no transparency here the way they drew the maps. And that is the most important thing in democracy, is transparency. So just remember that if you vote yes on that, you're going backwards. If you shoot a commercial, he would have all of those guys up there in Sacramento walk backwards and do everything backwards, because that's what they want to do, is take us backwards. But we're not going to go backwards. And other people are going to be smarter than that.
Governor, we would love to open it up for questions from the people.
Sure.
So we're going to take the first question from this room, and then the second question is going to come from our DC Capitol campus, where there are dozens of students who are actually watching this live stream. So please, anyone who's interested in asking a question, there are some microphones up here, and I think you just need to line up. Is that right, Adam? Okay.
Hi, Governor. Thank you so much for speaking with us. It means a lot just hearing your story and everything. It's very inspiring. My question is, today there was an LA Times article that came out saying that UCLA is being fined over $1 billion. And this seems like kind of an attack on academia. And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I wish that I could answer that, but I mean, I don't know the details, number one. Number two, I try to stay with the subject of democracy and with the subject of Proposition 50 and about fair elections and clean elections rather than cheating on elections.
Okay. And thank you for that answer. And
Sure.
With Proposition 50, how do you think it affects us as students in terms of how California's government reacts to different states? For example, how they're reacting to Texas. How does that have a direct impact on us as students?
Well, I think the key thing for any student is to fight for democracy. It doesn't matter which country you're coming from or which state you're coming from. You have to always ask yourself, is this for democracy? And anything that is against democracy, like what they're trying to do in Sacramento, which is Proposition 50, is against democracy. So this is why I'm against that. But I have to also tell you that students have a lot of power. I hope you all go out and vote, like I said, because you have a tremendous power of influence on this whole thing. And I think at USC, of course, you learn how to participate. I'm so proud of the students at USC, because I've seen it firsthand, since we have an institute here at USC, USC Schwarzenegger Institute. We have seen that a class that was teaching leadership. And at that class, the students were asked to show leadership and make changes. And there were two students that wrote up a report that said they abandoned paintings on the walls, on public walls out there, and on private walls. And that somehow murals were considered graffiti. And there was a law passed to ban graffiti and therefore painting also murals. And those two students were very upset. And they made it their job to change that. And they went to hearings at Los Angeles, the City Hall. And they did all the research with the artists and with everyone that was involved in this. And they really had great arguments. And by the time the whole thing was over, the City Hall changed the law. See what I'm saying? That is democracy. They got involved. They didn't think like most people just say, okay, this is the law. I don't know, they're stupid or something like that. No. They went to work systematically, and within a few months, they changed it. So they were obviously very successful with their class, and the professor that taught them was very successful. He was able, or she, I don't even know who it was able to teach them how to get involved and how to do follow-through. And so this is what is important here today, is for you to tell you this story only because you have the power to create the change.
Thank you, Governor. Nice speaking with you.
Thank you.
Great. We'll go to Washington, D.C. now.
Hello, Washington, D.C. You are up next.
Am I good?
Yes,
So
looking good.
Am I looking good?
My question is in the context of more existential issues like the current Supreme Court, congressional inaction, and the illegal use of National Guard, why does the California redistricting actually matter? And how is it not just a distraction from issues with more immediate and extensive consequences?
I don't think that they use it as an, for any other purpose other than weakening democracy in California, to be honest with you. And so I think that we have to do everything that we can to educate the people and to make sure that the people understand that the politicians want to take the power away from the people here in California, and they want to take it back so they have the power. And that is the worst thing. Like I said to you earlier, the Constitution does not start with the politicians, it starts with we the people. And I think this is what is important here.
So essentially you think it has nothing to do with the federal government?
No, it has nothing with the federal government. It has just to do with, they use excuses. But you have to understand, they used excuses now for 200 years. When I was governor, they used excuses, all kinds of excuses. As a matter of fact, the Democrats spent millions and millions of dollars to derail the independent commission idea. Millions and millions of dollars are spent against that. They hated it. And the Republicans hated it too. Remember one thing, the reason what got me really suspicious was when I saw the president pro tem in my office with the Republicans, and they spit at each other, and they were fighting each other and calling each other names. And so I said to myself, well, this is kind of odd behavior in the governor's office. But what was wild about it was that was 11 o'clock in the morning. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I get a phone call from my front desk. They said, the senator is on the phone. The very senator that was, spitting and was throwing a fit in my office. So I picked up the phone, and he says, hey, Arnold, Governor, this is really great to hear you. I mean, look, I know you're involved in this redistricting reform. I don't think you should get involved in that. It's the worst idea. I said, why do you say that? Well, it's not my idea. It's also my friend's idea. And the Republican, and I don't want to mention no names, but the Republican that he spit at in the morning is the same guy now that is sitting with him at the bar across the street. And he says, come on over here. I call him Charlie now, okay? Come on over here, Charlie. He says, talk to the governor. And this Republican now, in front of the Democrat, says, yeah, we both agree that it's a bad idea. You should not get involved in the redistricting commission and in this proposition. So I said to myself, wait a minute, I've been here now for more than a year, and this is the first time that the Democrats and the Republicans have agreed upon anything? There's something not right. And that's when I became suspicious. And I then called in my team after this phone call, and they said, what was going on there? And they said, well, they both don't like it because they have one thing in common, and this is they're politicians. They want to hold on to the power of drawing the district lines and of fixing the elections. Because if they draw the district lines, that means that they would draw it in a way where there's no competition, and therefore they don't have to perform. You see, the word competition is very important here. Because when you have competition, I don't know if you saw the fights this last Saturday, but there were UFC fights on, and then there were also boxing fights on. But there were unbelievable performances in those fights. But the reason was because there was another person in the ring. There was competition. If any of those fighters would have been alone in the ring, there would have been no competition. So this is what I'm talking about, is competition. When we draw the district lines fair, there's competition. And therefore the parties have to perform. They have to perform. Because now they don't have to perform. As soon as they go and they draw the district lines themselves, they don't have to perform. Look at this. In the majority of places in America, the politicians draw the district lines. Do you see any performance? For how many decades have we seen now the debt increasing? I don't see a performance there that someone gets rid of the debt. For how many years and decades do we see crime in the inner cities? I don't see any performance there. I mean, for how many years do we need immigration reform, true comprehensive immigration reform? There is no movement there on immigration reform. So the list goes on and on and on. They don't have to do anything. The approval rating of the legislators in Washington is 24%. I guarantee if I come out with a movie and I test it in front of an audience and it has only 24%, that means that movie went in the toilet. It's over. 24% is the approval rating, which is worse than herpes. You see what I'm saying? This is how pitiful it is. They can't get anything done because there's no competition, and they don't have to get anything done because they get reelected and reelected and reelected. We in California want to do it differently. We want to keep this independent redistricting commission, which is made up of Democrats and Republicans and independents, and they've done a fine job up until now. And that's why California is the #1 state in the union with the highest GDP. Everything is, not everything is great, a lot of problems still, but we are #1. And at the same time, we are the cleanest state with the best and most firm and advanced environmental laws that the oil and the coal companies have tried to take out for years, but they can't, because we always terminate them, if you know what I mean. So this is why, just to answer your question, that's why don't get sidetracked with this is something to do with federal government, it has something to do with this or that. They just want to go and get rid of and weaken democracy in California.
Thank you.
Thank you, absolutely.
All right, we have time for one more question.
Hi, Mr. Schwarzenegger. First of all, thank you so much for coming. And my question was like, throughout your career, you've obviously been a lot, and you've had to, face a lot of criticism, whether it was like judges critiquing your physique, or people trying to critique your acting or your political career. How do you believe like critically weighing information, whether to accept it or not, has influenced your view on democracy? And what lesson has that taught you, and how could that help students?
Well, first of all, I think that I'm never critical of critique. Because I think, like you said, the judges in the bodybuilding competition. I would go up to the judges after the competition and I would say, what was it that I needed to do in order to be better? I remember one judge said, Arnold, your arms are 22 inches, but your calves are only 20 inches. Your calves ought to be the same size as your biceps. And then I would train the whole year. I would have 3-4 guys sitting on my back to do donkey races and to do calf races, and I would do like 15-20 sets every day, my calves. And a year later, the judge never ever said that again. See what I'm saying? So you can listen to the critics. I have had, for instance, when I remember in 2005, I called a special election here in California, and I lost all 4 propositions. Of course I was upset. Whenever you lose, you're upset. But I listened to the people carefully, and they said, you just took on too much. It was too much. And so therefore, I went out to the people the next day and I said, I'm sorry. I took on too much. I've listened to you, and I will now work closer with the legislators, Democrats and Republicans alike, and I will move forward in a more systematic way, blah, blah, blah. So they forgave me, because 9 months later, I was reelected with 57% of the votes to be governor again. So the people forgive you, and you have to, but they have to see that you're listening. You have to listen to the people, and I listened very, very carefully. And I think the people are very smart, and they can give you the answers. That's why it's very important to do polling, to just always ask questions to the people. So to me, the people are the ultimate bosses. I always am very proud that my mind was always set not to be a servant to anyone else, but the people. That is it. The people, this is the most important thing. My movies are made for the people. The bodybuilding was always made for the people, to entertain people, to inspire them, and to get them going. And I think it's key that we always go and bring everyone together in order to get things done. You know, even though they say maybe it's impossible. I just tell you before you leave, and I know you're looking at the watch probably, but I just want to tell you, in 1970, when I became Mr. Olympia the first time, I immediately started thinking about we got to promote this worldwide, this sport of bodybuilding. And at that point, they said bodybuilding would never be popular because it's a narcissistic sport. You're doing it in front of the mirror, always looking at yourself. Probably majority is gay and definitely stupid. Because otherwise, why would you spend so much time on your body and not on your brain? And it was going on and on and on with all the kind of, you're going to die early and all this stuff, right? Well, I said, look, the way I see it is if one day we will have more supermarkets, we will have more gymnasiums than we have supermarkets. And look at it now. I mean, here we are 5 decades later. There's not one single hotel in the world that doesn't have a gym. Every military base has huge gymnasiums. Every university has a gym. Every club has a gym. Football, every sport has a gym. So think about that. Every fire station, every police station, no matter where you look, high schools, everywhere they have gyms. So this is what is going on, and there's a huge industry. So this is what happens when everyone works together and when you never give up. You promote and you promote. And this is why with democracy, that's the way we have to promote democracy. To keep reminding people and have events like this, which was so happy that President Kim did that, organized that, and that to bring us together and to talk about it and to remind people that we have something very unique and very powerful in America here, which is democracy. And we got to protect it, and we got to go and fight for it. We all have to participate in this. Thank you very much for your question.
Governor Schwarzenegger, thank you for joining us at USC, and happy democracy.
Thank you.
And fight on.
Thank you very much. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for listening.